A federal judge has ordered the U.S. Postal Service to take extraordinary measures ahead of Election Day. They include extra deliveries and collections. The move comes as facilities across the U.S. report delays in mail-in ballot deliveries. An estimated 1 in 10 ballots aren't arriving on time, and that rate is worse in several important swing states. This raises concerns for voters in 30 states that require their ballots arrive by Election Day to be counted. Robert Brandon joins me now. He's the CEO and Executive Director of the Fair Elections Center, a nonpartisan voting rights and election reform organization. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you believe these extraordinary measures will be enough to get ballots in on time? And what happens in the event that they aren't?
Well, I think this is all going to help, but for a lot of people, they've been told in the last several days not to try to mail a ballot. So we obviously have suggested the same thing. At this point, people can check and see if the ballots have been received by going online to their local election officials. And if they haven't, they do have an option to go and ask to cast a regular ballot. They might have to do it provisionally, and then if the other ballot arrives late, it'll get spoiled if they count the new ballot. And in some cases, they just won't count the new ballot and let you vote a regular ballot. So if you're really concerned and it doesn't look like it's appeared, I would recommend that they go in and vote tomorrow.
Well, experts say that election results may be delayed largely as a result of mail-in ballots. Why do mail-in votes take longer to count?
Well, first of all, we've had mail ballots for decades in this country. It's just this year there's been a lot more because of the pandemic. And for many states, the law is that they cannot be counted until election eve. Other states, they can start counting as soon as they're received. They just don't get displayed before Election Day. So it requires time to count millions of ballots. We also keep in mind count ballots a week after elections for people that vote overseas, the military. So we're always counting mail ballots sometime after Election Day in some instances. But either way, the most important thing is that all the ballots get counted. And if we have to be a little bit patient for a day or two, that's more important than not counting ballots that people have voted legitimately.
Well, I want to turn to some of the work your organization is doing. The Fair Elections Center focuses on voting rights and election reform. It has outstanding litigation in several battleground states. What more can you tell us about this, and how has the coronavirus pandemic impacted your work?
Well, it's meant that we've focused to some extent for the first part of the year on trying to make sure that more options were available for people that wanted to vote by mail. There are often restrictions on mail balloting in the past. So we worked both in terms of policy and in the courts to open up opportunities for people to vote by mail. And right now, at this point, that litigation has either been settled or suspended until after the election. But we'll continue to look for ways in the future also to make sure that people have the most options to vote. And I think after this election, many state legislatures and election officials are going to push for better systems in place to count earlier, to let people vote in various different options. Obviously, we're seeing a surge in voting early in person as well as by mail. And I think this is a trend we're going to see. The most important thing is to make sure that everybody who wants to vote can vote. And unfortunately, there have been too many obstacles put into place of some voters and to make it harder and harder to vote. We don't understand that as an organization that's trying to make sure the most important part of our democracy is to make sure everybody's voice is counted.
Well, during a rally over the weekend, President Trump said, quote, if we win on Tuesday, or thank you very much, Supreme Court, shortly thereafter. What are your concerns about election fairness if it ends up in the hands of the Supreme Court?
Well, I don't really think that as long as states are counting legitimately cast ballots that were postmarked by Election Day, and they're following the laws of their states, which most of these procedures are in place to do. In other words, there's time to count the ballots. That's built into the law or built into the system that's in place. I don't believe the Supreme Court's going to reach in and say to states that they can't do what they typically do in terms of counting every ballot that's cast.
All right, Robert Brandon. Robert, thank you very much.
You're welcome.